Hello, and thank you for joining us on this busy Monday evening. I'm Nezaj. Coming up, greenhouse gases at an all-time high, a lawsuit filed against Kellogg, anti-vaccine protests in New York City, and a look at your week's weather. All this and more as PS News starts right now. Here's what's happening around the world. COVID-19 was likely spreading around the United States and Europe before we realized it. A new study says transmission of the coronavirus was likely occurring in several areas across Europe and the United States by January 2020. Many infections could have gone undetected. The study is based on a model of COVID-19 transmission during the first wave of the pandemic. The model's findings, originally released last year, were published Monday in the journal Nature. Researchers looked at the data from the continental U.S. and 30 European nations, along with information on airline transportation and other travel patterns. The model suggests that local spread of the coronavirus was happening in January and February of last year, when testing for infections was limited. The researchers estimate that by early March, only 1 to 3 in 100 coronavirus infections were detected by surveillance systems. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that the first COVID-19 case detected in the United States was on January 1st of 2020, and the first case confirmed in Europe was detected on January 24th of 2020 in France. A new United Nations report says greenhouse gases in the atmosphere have reached a record high. According to the World Meteorological Organization's annual greenhouse gas bulletin, the concentration of carbon dioxide was 149% higher in 2020 than before widespread industrialization. The last time CO2 levels were this high was 3 to 5 million years ago, when it was up to 3 Celsius degrees warmer and water levels were up to 20 meters higher. The current trend puts us on a road to far exceed the 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase limit set by the Paris Agreement. The report found that while the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in a temporary decline in new emissions, it did not impact the amount of greenhouse gases already in the atmosphere. That number is continuing to increase. The findings come less than a week ahead of the COP26 climate talks scheduled to begin Sunday in Glasgow, Scotland. This is what the vineyards look like in La Palma, the Canary Islands, Spain. Some might think that it is a snowy landscape, but in reality, there are postcards that emerge from the eruption of the volcano Crumbe Vihaha. The ash has engulfed the island's plantations. These images released by the Wine Regulatory Council in La Palma. The council is evaluating the damage caused by the eruption that began on September 19th. Indications are that more than 100 wine growers were affected. The agency said that in addition to the destruction of crops, the volcano has left great emotional damage to the vineyard workers. And now let's take a look at this week's weather with PS News meteorologist Harrison Gereau. Harrison.
Thank you, Benny. I'm PS News meteorologist Harrison Gereau. Now, as you can see, it is certainly flannel weather in the Adirondacks. As we move over here to Owl's Head out west, we'll see highs in the mid to high 40s, quite cold over there. Down in Vermontville, we'll see highs in the high 40s, 49. Over in Dannemora, the highs will be 46. Down in Austable Forks, we'll begin to see the 50s with a high of 52. And moving into Plattsburgh, it'll peak at 53. Moving over now to the Vermont side of the border over in St. Albans City, we'll see highs in the low 50s as well, and down in Williston in the mid 50s at 55. Now let's take a quick look at our 5-day forecast. Tomorrow, quite a bit of the same from today, with some rain and highs in the low 50s. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all looking quite similar, with the sun peeking out from behind the clouds and highs in the low 50s. Now, as we move into the Halloween weekend, we'll see many more tricks than treats, as that rain will return and the highs will stay in the mid 50s. That's all for this week's weather. I'll throw it back to you, Benny.
Thank you, Harrison. That's all for our weather outlook. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we will take a look at the news around the nation.
Teak is Tau Kappa Epsilon. It's a national fraternity. It's one of the biggest in the nation right now. We're about 37 guys. We do our best to serve the community that we are a part of, and we really like to give back. In my opinion, what makes Teak stand out is just the amount of leadership skills that you will develop as a Teak. As time progresses, as you go through the rush process, you realize just like how genuine the people are in this organization.
Better men for a better world. Rush Teak.
Welcome back. Here is tonight's national news. A New York woman is suing Kellogg over the fruit filling in its Pop-Tarts. The woman filed the lawsuit against the company in New York last week. According to the lawsuit, the advertising on the boxes for their strawberry Pop-Tarts are misleading because the filling uses less strawberries than expected. The complainant says the pastry contains more pears and apples and strawberries. The lawsuit calls for a jury trial and asks for over $5 million in damages. The lawyers representing this case are also representing an Illinois woman who sued Kellogg in August and who makes similar allegations. Kellogg has not commented on the lawsuits. Black gold is continuing its spectacular recovery. Oil topped $85 per barrel for the first time in intraday trading since 2014. That marks a 13% jump in oil prices this month alone and a 120% rise since this time last year. The turnaround is remarkable for a commodity that was trading at negative prices less than 18 months ago when suppliers ran out of space to store it. A global energy crunch is similarly impacting the prices of coal and natural gas. The average price Americans are paying for a gallon of gas now stands at $3.38. A year ago, it was $2.16. The price of oil is highly influenced by output rates determined by OPEC, which is the world's largest cartel. Florida's governor wants to recruit more law enforcement, and he's using cash as an incentive. Governor Ron DeSantis plans to sign legislation during an upcoming special session that will award a $5,000 bonus to any law enforcement official who relocates to Florida. DeSantis says the move is an effort to address the needs of police and sheriff's departments in the state. DeSantis is also working to stop federal vaccine mandates for people living in Florida. He is planning to call the state legislature back to fight the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration's proposed new vaccine rule for large employers, an emergency standard announced by President Joe Biden last month. DeSantis says the bonus offer isn't about the vaccine mandates. A Texas homeowner facing a first-degree murder charge for killing a man outside his home turned himself in on Friday. Terry Duane Turner was booked Friday morning and was out on bond less than 2 hours later. He's accused of felony murder and in the death of 31-year-olds Adil Johi and a Macaronian man parked in a driveway in Martindale. Turner told police that he was armed, but the victim's girlfriend said she believed he was lost and had just pulled over to look up directions. The victim's family was angry that it took almost 2 weeks for Turner to be arrested over the fatal incident on October 11th. Now, when we come back, we'll have a quick look at your sports. Stay tuned, folks.
Ready. Okay.
Welcome to PS Sports. I'm Kasandra Webb. This pair of Michael Jordan sneakers broke a record at auction over the weekend. The Nike Airships sneakers were auctioned off Sunday by Sotheby's. They say cards collector Nick Fiorella paid $1.47 million for them. The price tag set a new world record for the most money ever paid at auction for a pair of sneakers. Jordan wore the red and white footwear in 1984 during the 5th game of his rookie season with the Chicago Bulls. Dozens of anti-vax protesters demonstrated outside the Barclays Center before the Brooklyn Nets home opener Sunday. They stood in support of Nets guard Kyrie Irving, who has been banned from playing there because he refused the COVID vaccine. A sign outside the Barclays Center in Brooklyn said New York City requires everyone entering the building to be vaccinated. One of the protesters was a New York teacher who chose not to return to work because of the city's vaccine mandate. A small group of the protesters even broke through the barriers and tried to barge into the arena about an hour before tip-off. It's not clear if the protest affected attendance, but there were many empty seats in the arena for the game, which the Nets lost to Charlotte. CNN catches up with 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton ahead of the United States Grand Prix in Austin. Hamilton reflects on his love of America, his rivalry with Max Verstappen, and on championing causes close to his heart. CNN's Coy Wire has the story.
I love coming out here. Being in the States, I spend as much time as I can in the States. Just think the country is awesome. And the people particularly are really beautiful and positive. Every time we come here, we have the best crowd. Americans are very, they're the greatest sporting fans, really. They're just so crazy into sports. Once they've got the hook and they're into something, the energy that they bring is spectacular. So that's something I really have missed. So it's good to be back and be back in the middle of it.
Max Verstappen is rolling right now.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge for you finishing ahead of him this season?
Well, it's a whole team of us, right? There's a lot of people in my team. It's keeping everyone on their toes, minimizing mistakes. We need to finish all the remaining races naturally and scoring maximum points. I think for us is just making sure, one, we've got to continue to enjoy the journey, not apply too much pressure to ourselves because we've been here many, many times before, but not let that desire and that yearn for success overpower everything and put added pressure on us that we don't really need. But it's all about preparation, and now back in training, pushing harder than ever, getting the weight, trimming down, getting the weight just right for the race and making sure that we kill it this weekend.
You don't have much to lose, so that's sacrifice and discipline and dedication. As a former wrestler who had to cut to make weight, I respect that.
Yeah,
grind.
the weight thing's kind of crazy, and people don't realize and that weight's so important for us. Like 2.2 pounds is worth 0.03 seconds.
Wow.
So over a race, that's like 2 seconds, I think.
Right.
So that can be a big distance.
Incredible to think about.
So yeah.
When you think about your journey, what does that represent to you?
My dream was always to get to Formula One, to do something like Ayrton Senna. He had 3 world titles. And then to see myself match him at one point and then go beyond that. To think that I'm here today where most people don't even get 1 championship and to have 7 is very, very crazy still. But every year when I come back, it's like a reset. Like I'm not champion, I have no titles. I'm going for the first. That's kind of my mentality.
You were always the smallest one growing up, bullied in school at times. How
Lewis Hamilton says he will continue to champion change on and off the track for the causes he holds near and dear. That's all for tonight's sports. Let's throw it back to the desk with Benny.
Thank you, Kasandra. It looks like that's all the time we have for tonight. Be sure to check out the Plattsburgh State TV YouTube to watch all of our programming, including this broadcast. You can catch the first 2 episodes of The Other Side, produced by our very own Faith Rogers, tonight at 7:30 on our YouTube page. Now, whether you're watching from home or on the go, you can find PS News on social media at PS Newsroom and all of our shows from PS TV at Plattsburgh State TV. Have a good night, Plattsburgh.